I went to school for all this time to really learn that it's all about the basics,
Mm.
right? Like for so many people, we can get nuanced into how much vitamin D and how much of this and how much of that. Like, I think for me, it goes back to eat more vegetables, cut back on sugar and processed foods.
Welcome back to another episode of the Todd Durkin Impact Show. This is Todd Durkin, and I am so fired up for today. We have an awesome conversation, an awesome episode today, all about nutrition. I think the most common question I'm getting from people right now is, how the heck am I supposed to eat well now amongst all the stress with COVID-19? I'm like, I hear you. I understand, because stress is rampant. So I went out and said, okay, we're going to address this today because the questions all around stress and immunity, how do you build your immunity? And that's what I'm going to talk about today with someone very special. Before I go there, I just want to ask you, how are you doing? When it comes to how are you doing, I'm talking about like as a whole, like as a whole being right now, physically, mentally, spiritually. Are you putting in the time? Are your habits dialed in when it comes to movement? I know you don't have any record-setting performances going on now physically. Right now, it's about moving and boosting your immunity to get moving. And when it comes to the mental mindset aspect, I've delivered some episodes over the last few weeks when it comes to mindset of how do you make sure you don't have any toxic thinking? How do you guard what's coming in to your body versus what's going out? So really making sure you guard your mind and make sure you're reading and listening to great things that are going to fuel you up. And then spiritually right now, are you taking the time right now? Are you taking that time to have some quiet time? And whether that be 5 to 10 minutes, a half hour, whatever it is, just taking a few moments several times a day to right now be grateful. Because being in an attitude of gratitude right now, every single day, if you're stressed, if you're down, you're feeling blue, my friends, know this, that if you have your health, your physical health, and you have your spiritual being and self, and you have your mindset, that's all we need right now to continue to battle this very admirably. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for the battle, because we will get through this. I promise you, we will get through this. Now, check this out. Today, you're in for a treat. Now, we've got someone named Dr. Brooke Scheller. Now, Dr. Brooke Scheller, she's a doctor of clinical nutrition. She's a certified nutrition specialist. Now, Dr. Brooke Scheller is a doctor of clinical nutrition and personalized nutrition expert specializing in the development of nutrition strategy, both for large organizations and individuals. She's on a mission to convince people to eat more vegetables and less junk through simple changes and small steps daily, even while COVID-19 is going on. During her studies for her doctorate in clinical nutrition, Brooke found that while many can benefit from personalized recommendations, the majority of the population can benefit just from the basics. More real food, less junk food. And thus she began a revolution to empower people toward better choices, starting simply by adding more vegetables to the plates every single day. My friends, today, Dr. Brooke Scheller is on the show. I got to admit, she's been someone who I have known her entire life. Dr. Brooke Scheller is my niece. My niece is my sister Judy's daughter, and she, for the last decade plus, has devoted and dedicated her life to the science of nutrition. And you're going to love what Dr. Brooke has to say today, because she's a special gal who's grown up in the same hometown where I grew up back in New Jersey. And now as a professor and as someone who is doing amazing things in the field of nutrition, you're in for a real treat today as we talk about building immunity through nutrition. And we're talking gut health. And even right now, amongst all the stress that's going on, what are some simple tools that we can use on the end? By the way, you're going to find out some of my things that I'm struggling with nutritionally right now, so that as we get through COVID-19, some very specific strategies that I'm trying to rely on, thanks to Dr. Brooke. So, my friend, let's go out to Brooke Scheller and hear what she has to say about building immunity amongst the COVID-19 crisis. Folks, welcome back, and we have the one and the only, someone very special on the line today. We have Dr. Brooke Scheller. Brooke, how are you today?
Todd, I'm great. Or should I say Uncle Todd?
Yeah, baby.
I'm really, really excited to be on the show. I've been obviously a longtime listener
Big fan of yours, of course, reigning
Like your
from
whole life,
Bricktown, New Jersey.
like your whole life.
Reigning from Bricktown, New Jersey as well. But I'm really happy to be on this show. I'm excited. You know, I have to thank probably some of my interest in the topic of nutrition and health to you and other members of the family who have been so passionate about this for so long. So I'm excited to be on and talk a little bit about a topic that I know has changed my life and changed the lives of so many.
Well, you know, I'm proud of you because you talk about changing your life. Folks, as you listen to Brooke today, you realize here's a woman who has literally transformed her own life through nutrition and has transformed now thousands of people's lives through nutrition. And today I want to impact your life. Between the conversation between Brooke and I, she's now a doctor of clinical nutrition. She's a certified nutrition specialist. She's an adjunct professor at Drexel University. She's a director of nutrition at a company back in the NYC. It's actually a global company. So Brooke, I am so pumped up to talk nutrition because right now in the middle of a pandemic, many of our nutrition habits need a lot of work. So man, I'm pumped up.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because obviously nutrition being something that can have such a positive impact on health, you know, I'm getting a lot of questions now about food for immunity and, you know, a lot of people talking about snacking more. And I get friends texting me and saying, how do I stop? How do I put down this chocolate or this wine? You know, and it's a stressful time and we tend to maybe change our behaviors or our habits a little bit, even just based on, you know, what's going on in our environment. We're not leaving the house as much. Our routines are all changed. But, you know, I have to say, like, just to throw it off, like, I think the whole reason why nutrition excites me is, you know, I'm a big foodie, love food. I mean, if you look at my Instagram, you'll see pictures. I'm like a huge nerd about vegetables. You'll see a lot of pictures about veggies. But, you know, for me, it's so interesting because I think a lot of people think nutrition has benefits for weight loss and some specific health conditions like those with diabetes or cardiovascular disease. But the thing that interested me the most about nutrition was actually how it has such a positive impact on the entire body, right? So we often forget that, you know, our digestion is directly linked to what we eat. We oftentimes don't think that our mood, or if we have anxiety or depression, that this is linked to what we're eating. We don't think that, you know, if we have manifestations on our skin or if we can't build muscle, like a lot of times we don't think how important nutrition is for a lot of these things. And I think my biggest passion is just having people understand more that nutrition can impact everything. And one of those things really being the immune system, which we'll talk more about today.
Well, one of my favorite quotes was from Hippocrates, right? He said, let thy medicine be thy food and thy food be thy medicine. And this is something I've said forever. And I think the number one question I get right now from all of our loyal listeners has to do with stress. Like many people in the world today are extremely stressed with this global coronavirus. And I know I've jokingly said, but it's not so much of a joke, is right now we're playing for the tie. Like many of us are working out and moving every day, but our food, there's a lot to be desired because the cravings and the sugar and the stress. So I want to kick it off today by asking more about the stress side of things. Be like, yeah, go there, Todd. Go there, Todd. I can hear you right now as you're walking the dogs. Like, yeah, good topic. You know, why do you think people are finding themselves snacking more and giving into some of the indulgent foods? Like when you open up the cabinet, like the cookies are speaking, or the chips and salsa is speaking, or the brownies or chocolate chip cookies, like they're speaking louder than ever before. Why the heck, Brooke? What's going on? Tell me about this.
You know, like I said, I get messages from my friends. Like I literally get texts from people saying like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? I can't stop. Okay, I'm not going to do it today. I'm not going to do it today. And then they text me 3 hours later and say, I did it. Oops, I did it. And you know, it's interesting because as I was thinking about this the other day, I noticed it actually happened to myself, and I had kind of this epiphany. You know, I was sitting on the couch and I haven't really been watching much news, but every once in a while you turn it on, right? And as soon as I started to get a little stressed out, the first thing I did was I got up, I went down to the kitchen, and I started looking for something to eat. And when I did that, I took a step back and I said, wow, I really recognized how the stress triggered me to want to go and snack. And of course, I didn't want to go and snack on carrots and celery like, you know, I probably should have. But I wanted sweets, I wanted high carbohydrate foods because those are the the things that we tend to crave during these types of situations. When I was thinking about it more, one of the biggest things is that there's actually a biochemical reason as to why this would happen. So I know a lot of us are thinking like, oh, I can't stop. But actually our stress hormones are directly linked to our blood sugar. And so when we start having higher levels of stress, we start having imbalances in blood sugar, meaning that we start to have cravings for, again, these high sugar, high carbohydrate foods. So if you're someone who's been experiencing this, I want you to know that it's happening because of, a biochemical reaction in the body. So, it's not your lack of willpower, for example. But one of the big things, and Todd, you talk about this on the podcast all the time, is like mindfulness and stress reduction techniques. Like, how can we implement certain things into our day, whether that's minimizing exposure to stressful events like watching the news, or incorporating things like you talk about, like meditation and deep breathing exercises. Because those, even though they don't seem linked to our food and what we're eating, again, once that stress is triggered, it's going to cause us to kind of be a little bit out of control with what we're craving.
Yep. So what would you say as a doctor in nutrition when someone is having an emotional response and they are stressed and they are, let's just say maybe it's chocolate covered almonds. Let's just say it's something like that is in the cabinets and you really have it. How are you saying to combat that? Like, I'm saying in the moment. I'm not saying I get the meditation, I get the exercise, but like right then and there, do you have a way that you would say, here's, beside willpower, like chocolate almonds? These are the things that speak to me, by the way, if you can't tell.
They speak to me too, don't worry.
Right. So what is it that you would do to actually combat that?
Well, there's a couple of things that I think of as we're talking about that. And one of them is, it's okay to treat yourself, right?
Yep.
Like we're allowed to indulge and treat ourselves. We just don't want to be doing it all the time, all day long, throughout the course of the day. So I think like something like a chocolate covered almond is a great option because, you've got some healthy fats there. That's going to help kind of stabilize or help you to feel more satiated versus, if you're just got your hand in the bag of, let's say, chocolate chips, for example. Always dark chocolate. It's actually high in antioxidants. So big fan of chocolate. Again, it's easy to overdo. But I think that, again, allowing yourself to have some of these things. I was just talking to some of my students this past week, and we were talking about how there was actually a research article that was done that actually avoiding the sweets can actually drive stress hormones up more, because if we start like beating ourselves up over it, it creates more stress, right? So it's kind of this vicious cycle. So by allowing yourself to have treats and not feel like you have to totally eliminate them from your diet is important too. But again, can you choose better things like the chocolate covered, ideally dark chocolate covered almonds are a great option over, some other type of maybe cookie or more processed higher sugar.
So what I'm hearing Dr. Brooks say to me is that I can eat dark chocolate covered almonds, correct?
You can have like a handful.
Yes. Yeah. Sweet.
Fine.
So here's what I would say, folks, as we're listening in today, is Brooke just said minimize stress and overexposure to the media. And I think those are great ways. Obviously, I'm a huge advocate of exercising or moving every day right now in the midst of this pandemic. And that includes just even going out for a meditative walk, right? So you're moving every day. But if you're in the moment, here's what I'm doing to try to combat the cravings. And when I say cravings, I get that 5 to 10 chocolate covered almonds or whatever your weakness may be, that's mine, may be okay. What happens is it's like if you eat half the bag, because that the whole, it takes 10, 15 minutes for your brain to register that you're full after a meal. What I'm saying is I typically, for me, myself, it's after dinner where I get these cravings. It's not during the day. It's not after. It's like when I've had a long day after dinner, like, okay, I deserve to have some chocolates, and those chocolates would turn into more than the 5 to 10. So what I try to do now is before I even go to the chocolates, now we're talking about chocolate. It's kind of like, this is good. This is good talk. Is I'll actually have a protein shake. I'll actually have chocolate covered. I have chocolate almond milk, unsweetened chocolate almond milk with 2 scoops of protein powder. And this satiates my cravings for sugar because of the protein increase. So I find, and I've found for many years, that if I increase my protein after my dinner, that I don't crave sugar as much as I would typically if I don't have that. So for me, my dessert, quote, I'll call it dessert, is unsweetened chocolate almond milk along with 2 scoops of protein powder. And for me, that works so that if I feel like I want to go have some more, I'm not going to have like, half the bag of chocolate covered almonds, but maybe I'll have a few.
Can I tell you the scientific reason why that's happening for you?
Enlighten us.
You are a very high functioning person. You're busy all day. You are pumping out stress hormones, probably pretty high throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you stop, you're crashing. It's linked into your blood sugar. So that's when you're, again, sometimes people feel like they'll have like physical symptoms of low blood sugar, but generally how low blood sugar would show up would be in the form of cravings, whether that is high carb or high sugar foods.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. So stress, the bottom line, folks, is throughout the day, your habits do matter. If you didn't listen to the James Clear Atomic Habits, go back after this and listen to that, because our habits do matter when it comes to stress. And what Brooke is telling us here is obviously it's linked to biochemistry on that. So even the habits throughout the day matter for your stress. But when you're in the moment, some strategies that you can do to make sure you don't absolutely tank in your diet as well. I want to just shift a little bit here. I want to talk immunity, because obviously with the pandemic going on, I think the most important thing that we can all do right now is to stay healthy, or, God forbid, if someone was to get stricken and get COVID-19 or the coronavirus, is that their immune system is strong to fight it. So let's talk about immunity. And are there a few tips that you would have that one could really do to build their immunity when it comes to nutrition?
Yeah. So, again, as we kind of were talking about when we first kicked off, nutrition is one of those things that does play a really big role in something like immunity, but it's not necessarily our go-to. I mean, I think people think vitamin C. I think, most of the time we don't even really know what that's doing for us. We're like, oh, I heard vitamin C, so I'm going to pop Emergency or some supplements to help improve my immune system. It goes farther beyond, just vitamin C. And we can talk again about some take homes and takeaways that people can use to improve their immune system through food. But I think one of the biggest things is, I'm sure you've talked about on the podcast, inflammation, right? And inflammation is kind of this hot topic. It's something that's, both in the fitness world, in the nutrition world, in the medical world, that inflammation is how I learned it, that it's the root cause of most chronic disease. So anytime we have inflammation in the system, it kind of lowers our defenses for the rest of our body to function properly. So in this instance, specific really to the immune system, is inflammation is actually an immune process. So inflammation, when we think about, like, if you get a cut on your hand, there'll be redness and swelling and pain, which is actually the body creating an inflammatory response to heal the wound. What happens is that will happen within our body due to, certain foods that we eat, due to toxins that come into our system, and other types of triggers that can create inflammation throughout the body. Food tends to be a really big trigger of inflammation.
So what would be some inflammatory foods?
Yeah, so there's there's two ends of the spectrum, really. There's what we call pro-inflammatory foods, which would increase inflammation. And then we've got anti-inflammatory foods that would decrease inflammation. Okay. So when we have too much inflammation that's happening in the body, it actually lowers our immune system's defenses. So if we were to have a high level of inflammation in our body, get exposed to something like the coronavirus, it makes it harder to fight something like that off. And oftentimes, if we would get exposed, it would make the duration longer. So we'd have a more difficult time really getting over that as well. So when we think about foods that are pro-inflammatory, this is where we start to think about sugar. We think about high carbohydrate foods or refined flours or refined grains. Basically, most of our packaged processed foods, they use a lot of vegetable oils. Vegetable oils are high in something called omega-6, which is considered to be pro-inflammatory. And so again, if we're consuming a lot of foods out of the package, if we're consuming a lot of sugar, if we're consuming a lot of breads and starchy type of foods, it will increase inflammation in our body. On the other end of the spectrum, we have our anti-inflammatory foods. And not surprisingly, it's our whole foods, right? So we think about things like vegetables and fruits and whole grains and lean proteins and things like healthy fats. one of my favorite anti-inflammatory foods is wild caught fish.
So just a note on, wild caught fish. They're high in something called omega-3 fatty acids. And omega-3 fatty acids are pretty well known to be one of our anti-inflammatory fats. Versus our omega-6 fats, which I mentioned more in the processed foods. And this is a big topic that, is pretty big in the nutrition world. People take omega-3 supplements and things like that. Omega-3s are not found in a ton of foods, but they are found in other types of nuts and seeds. So things like walnuts, chia seeds, hemp seeds. So those are also some really great ways to minimize inflammation within the system.
Yep, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, I used to joke and call myself the vegetable doc, but like one of my biggest passions, I think, is just getting people to eat more vegetables. The actual stat is that less than 10% of Americans eat the recommended, quote unquote, 2.5 to 3 cups of veggies per day. And really, as it relates to nutrition, or the immune system, vegetables are our most nutrient dense source of food. So we talk about things again like vitamin C being really important for the immune system. I think that a lot of people think vitamin C equals oranges, but vitamin C is found in a ton of other fruits and vegetables. Some of my favorites being broccoli and cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. What you get in broccoli in terms of vitamin C is equal, if not more, than what you get in an orange. And in addition to a lot of other important nutrients as well. So, just by eating or increasing your vegetable intake, that plays a huge role in it supporting your immune system, because all those important nutrients, again, vitamin C, vitamin A, or beta carotene, which is found in our fruits and veggies that are orange, red, and yellow, are really important. And I think the last one that we talk about a lot as it relates to the immune system is vitamin D. Vitamin D is another one that's gained a lot of popularity over the last few years. There's a lot of research coming out to show how important it is for immune system function. It's been linked into things like autoimmune diseases in those who are deficient. And we think of vitamin D as our sunshine vitamin. Out in San Diego, you probably get much more of the sunshine vitamin than we do in New York for most of the year. But it's a really important nutrient, and it's actually not found in a lot of foods. The good news is I mentioned that wild caught fish a minute ago, and wild caught fish also has vitamin D. So this is another reason why incorporating that into your diet can be really beneficial.
Yeah.
But
hey,
also
Brooke,
out in the sun.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, because as you make that there about vitamin D and being in San Diego, the interesting thing is right now, in the midst of a stay-at-home orders right now, as I record this with you here in late April, is the fact that we're not getting outside as much as we probably should or normally do. So vitamin D isn't where we need. As a matter of fact, I had my blood drawn. I talked about this on a previous podcast from a naturopathic doctor right before everything. And I spoke to her via telehealth, which has changed the way the game is played. And my omegas were down and my vitamin D was down. I'm like, okay, I need to get out even more, because I normally get out early in the morning for my walk, but it's like I need a little bit more sunshine. That means it's important, folks, when we talk about immunity, is that you're getting out for more than one reason. When I say getting out, not obviously breaking rule, but as like going out for a walk. And if you need to put something over a mask over your mouth, feel free to do so. But that vitamin D from a perspective of immunity is a really important aspect. So great points right there, Brooke. Great point.
Yeah, no, and you're right. Most people are deficient in it. I've very rarely seen someone who actually is sufficient. And there's a lot of reasons, again, why they say that could be true. And one of them is that, again, it's not found in a lot of foods. So it's not as commonly found like vitamin C would be, for example, in our foods. Mushrooms are also another really good source of vitamin D. But like you mentioned, just getting outside sometimes for people is not enough. One of the big things that we struggle with here in the Northeast and in the northern latitudes is that through October to May, the sun is actually not strong enough to make it. So supplementation can be beneficial, but it's always important to get your levels checked and really understand where you're at.
So mushrooms are a good source of vitamin D, but aren't they also a pro-inflammatory food?
It depends. Mushrooms really do have a lot of benefits, and depending on the type of mushroom that you're eating, mushrooms can actually have they're really high in selenium. They're rich in a lot of nutrients that you don't
Okay.
really get in the diet very frequently. I'm a big proponent of mushrooms and think they can be really beneficial for people. Although, again, inflammation, right? As you're mentioning, are they pro-inflammatory? If you eat mushrooms and you notice that, that you have some type of effect from that, even if it's something small, if it's, I eat mushrooms every day and I have joint pain, maybe try cutting them out and seeing if, that improves with the removal of them from your diet.
So what I'm hearing is when it comes to your top tips for boosting immunity, I'm hearing increase your vegetable intake, right? And that's going to get you your C, D, A, and some zinc. Increase your healthy fats, omega-3s from wild-caught fish. And then obviously decreasing sugar as well, processed foods and saturated fats. That's all going to boost immunity. Would you say those are your top tips?
Those are the top tips, Todd. And like I said, it's one thing to incorporate more of these nutrients in your diet to be able to support proper immune function and making sure that your body is able to defend against invaders. But again, really focusing on, if we're having enough vitamin C or we're taking a vitamin C supplement, but are you still eating a lot of sugar, a lot of processed foods, a lot of saturated fats? An article was just published in one of our nutrition journals on actually specific to COVID, how having too much saturated fat in the diet, too much processed food in the diet actually does decrease some of your immune defenses. So that's an important thing to take away as well.
Any other ways when it comes to antioxidants and decreasing stress off the immune system? Any other, whether it be foods, supplements, things that one should consider to do to help boost that immunity?
Yeah, so you mentioned antioxidants, which are found in a lot of those veggies. So sometimes we decipher between the two, and sometimes we think more about things like vitamin C, but vitamin C actually acts as an antioxidant. So you've probably heard of that recommendation of like eat the rainbow, right? Eat foods of all different colors. And actually the components that make the food certain colors are the antioxidants that are found in there. So it's important to have this range of food because what antioxidants do is they actually break down some of the yucky stuff that's in the system that actually makes our immune system more sluggish. You talk a lot about beta-alanine as a supplement. Beta-alanine is a precursor to something called carnosine. Carnosine is actually an antioxidant in the system. So it does help to kind of work to eradicate some of the free radicals that are in the system. So
So talk to me, because I'm always talking about beta-alanine from a performance perspective. You're talking about it from an immunity standpoint and recovery standpoint. Is that correct?
I am, because basically the same mechanisms by which it's helping to improve fitness recovery, it's acting in the body as an antioxidant. So what it's doing is it's decreasing stress in the system. So we talk about free radicals oftentimes, and basically what that is they're just kind of like the waste that lives within our body. It lives within our cells. And by increasing antioxidant-rich foods, we help to eliminate that waste from the system, or we combat that waste. So when we think about fitness and helping to move kind of the lactic acid through the system and kind of flushing out the muscles, beta-alanine will work in that way, but just by its action as an antioxidant, it's going to help support the immune system.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying today's show. You just heard Dr. Brooke Scheller talking about beta-alanine and its importance not only in performance, but in recovery and building immunity. She mentioned its role in buffering lactic acid, which leads to muscle fatigue. And you've heard me talk for a long time now about my belief in beta-alanine and why I recommend it to all my athletes and use it myself. I always use brands that carry the carnosine beta-alanine logo. This guarantees that you're putting the highest quality beta-alanine into your body. Carnosine is banned substance free, it's patented, it'll help you get maximum results in your workouts, and heck, it's even going to help you build your immunity. Carnosine beta-alanine is found in major leading pre- and post-workout products, and I have a special opportunity for you today if you'd like to try it. I have a discount code for 30% off carnosine beta-alanine powder or capsules. Yes, 30% off. Here's what you got to do. Go to www.nowfoods.com and type in Durkin30 at checkout for 30% off any carnosine beta-alanine powder or capsule. Yes, that's Durkin30 is your code. Listen, I've been using carnosine beta-alanine for years, and I believe it's one of the most important supplements that I've used in my complete nutrition and supplement routine that helps me stay focused, energized, healthy, and operating at my best self. So check it out today and let me know what you think. Again, go to www.nowfoods.com and type in Durkin30 when checking out. This offer is available only until July 31st, 2020, and then it will no longer be valid. So get it today and let me know what you think tomorrow.
There's tons of ways, and there's so many functional foods out there. And, we talk about things like collagen, and we talk about, bone broth and kind of some of the benefits that come from those foods. So there's really such a wide range of these different nutrient-rich foods.
I've been using that recently. Not the bone broth. I love the idea of that, but the collagen, protein, and MCT oil on that, based from some recommendations on that, and I've really enjoyed that as well. The collagen, protein, the MCT oil on that. So good points on that. Where does hydration fit in? Because here's the deal. Like, I know you're someone who believes in the basics, and the one thing that I am not doing a good enough job on right now, and not because it's like 90 degrees out in San Diego right now, is just hydration. I think, we always hear about the importance of hydration. I'm always like, hey, half your body weight in fluid ounces of water. Just talk about that, because I think everyone knows it, but they're not doing it. We all know we need to drink more water. Can I get an amen, folks? But like, even now, I'm like, I got to do a better job right now hydrating up with pure water. Talk about why and what can that do? And does it affect our immunity, or just, hey, it's going to help our organs function better? Why? Please remind me. Just talk to me, bro. Why do I need to drink more water right now?
I want to see like a water glass on your desk at all times, because that's really important, especially when you're throughout the day. I always keep like a big jug or a big water bottle so that I don't have to maybe get up as often to fill it up. But you're right, it is really important for our body. And a lot of times people notice just by increasing the fluids and the hydration that they're getting, that they actually can think more clearly, that they feel more energy. And again, this almost goes back to what we were just talking about with antioxidants and removing waste from the body. So hydration is really important, because if we're not drinking enough water, we're not then excreting, whether that is via urine or feces, to eliminate the waste from our body. And when we have excess waste building up in our system, it starts to release yucky stuff into the body. So you'll actually notice, like, for those who are more constipated, some of that could be from actually not drinking enough water. But if we're not getting that waste actually out of the body, some of that actually gets reabsorbed back into our system. So it doesn't allow us to remove toxins and waste effectively. It really does keep the brain sharp. It keeps, our body kind of functioning and things moving around. And like you're mentioning, our organs functioning efficiently. So it is really important. I think it's such a basic thing. I know that sometimes it's tough. And I do find, like, whenever my habits change, or if I'm in a new setting, or if I change my desk, or, I'm working from home now, that, those habits aren't always in place. But sometimes it's just finding those little tips, like keeping a big, glass on your desk at all times, or certain throughout the day.
You know what I've been doing? This has really helped me from a hydration standpoint early in the morning. Is obviously when we wake up in the morning, we are in a dehydrated state, because most people don't drink water while they're sleeping. So one of the things that I've been doing is when I wake up, I actually have a warm glass of water with lemon in it. And based on my friend Robert Yang, if you guys listen to that podcast, who is actually a huge advocate of coffee, and that's where I put my collagen, protein, and MCT oil and powder, is I have water before a coffee, because if you get up and you have a coffee right away, you're further dehydrating a dehydrated state. So that has really helped me. I need to do a better job during the day, pounding the water on that. But those are great points. So Brooke, final question, because I love hacks. Are there any other hacks? Well, before I even get there, this is important. We're talking immunity. And with COVID-19 and everything going on, are there some specific areas? You talk about vitamin C, D, A, zinc, magnesium. Are there any specific numbers that you personally are shooting? Say, I got to have, 5,000 IUs of vitamin A or D, or like, are there any specific numbers that you have seen research wise and that you're using that would be a good hack for us to say, hey, we really need to be shooting for this to boost immunity? I'm just talking pure immunity right now.
Yeah, everybody's body's different. So it's
Yep.
hard to say that everyone's going to benefit from the same amounts.
Mm-hmm.
Vitamin A has been pretty well studied up to about 10,000 IUs per day to support the immune system. It actually plays a really big role also on the gut and increasing kind of the immune system that roots in our digestive system. So vitamin A, and a lot of times you'll find these as like standard dosages on supplements, so you won't necessarily have to go like seeking that out so hard. Vitamin D though is an interesting one because, as you mentioned, your numbers were low, and most people again are low. I was even on suboptimal, and I take it every day. Usually people see it in 1,000, 2,000 IU dosages, and it's for a lot of people that's not enough, especially if you're already low. So I'm a big proponent of 5,000 to 10,000 IU, and if you're on the higher end of the spectrum, like 10,000 IU, really trying to do that maybe every other day instead of every day. These are vitamins that can be more toxic at high levels, so you don't want to go playing around with super high amounts of vitamin D to boost your immunity. You don't want to go too far out of the water there. Vitamin C, is different. Another one that's kind of different for everyone, and a lot of dosages start at 500 or 1,000 milligrams. One of the things that we learned in school, I always thought this was interesting, was to titrate until it induces a bowel movement, because if you drink too much or you take too much vitamin C, it will make you have to evacuate. So, if you are taking a lot of it and you're noticing that that's happening to you, it could be because you're taking too much. So usually we titrate that up 500 milligrams until you induce that bowel movement and then back it back down. But that can kind of allow you to maximize the amount of vitamin C that you're able to take in. Omega-3s, just a last note on that, that's another one that can be really beneficial at higher levels, like 2,000 to 3,000 IUs per day. A note there is that a lot of supplements are actually much lower than that. So you may have to double a dosage or look for one that is a little bit higher in milligram dosage.
That is awesome. Well, we've got some great tips here. Any other hacks that you have, Brooke, that you use personally that you're like, I would never know that Brooke did this? Because you've been studying this now for a long time, and you've been working with many, many people across the land to help improve their nutrition, their wellness, their energy. Are there any other hacks when it comes to nutrition, or periphery when it comes to feeling your best, being your best, and boosting immunity?
Todd, I always go back to this, like, as you mentioned, I've been studying this for a long time. I was in school for nutrition for about 10 years and got really, really into super personalized, a lot of functional testing. How do we figure out what's right for each individual and kind of dig in on such a deep level? And when I worked in clinical practice, that's what we were doing. We were working with, more chronically ill people. And then I shifted my career a little bit to work with more of a mass market. And I had to completely take myself out of that and really look at how do we impact the larger group, right? So as I mentioned, less than 10% of people eating fruits and vegetables, and the stats on other nutrients are alarming. But I think the biggest thing for me is, as I went to school for all this time to really learn that it's all about the basics, right? Like, for so many people, we can get nuanced into how much vitamin D and how much of this and how much of that. Like, I think for me, it goes back to eat more vegetables, cut back on sugar and processed foods, and really just focus more on what you're putting into your body. It's not just about what you're putting, the foods that you're not getting enough of, but also the foods that you're getting too much of. And I think it's always great to, especially during a time like this, our habits are different, our day-to-day is different, but really using this time to assess, how can I better improve my diet? Can I learn how to cook, a veggie that I always thought I hated in a different way? Or really just making it easy, because, I found for me personally that has made the biggest impact.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. And Brooke, thank you so much for today and delivering such great. I'm so proud of you, Brooke. Really, really awesome. Folks, as you listen into Dr. Brooke Scheller, I wanted to remind you of a few things. It's not just about nutrition. It really is about a lifestyle right now. And as we battle through coronavirus, let me be a little voice inside your head that we will get through this. We got this, but it's going to take daily effort. It's going to take winning the now. Not just winning the day, winning the now. And how do you win the now? You win the now by, are you moving today? What are you going to do in the next few hours when it comes to boosting your energy? When it comes to boosting your immunity, Brooke just talked about some things that you can choose. Now, we can't choose for you. Brooke can't choose for you. I can't choose for you. When you open the pantry, whatever food is in there, if you stock your pantries with a lot of good food and not a lot of chocolate covered almonds, then you're going to make the right choices, right? Sooner or later, if you get rid of all the junk food that you're bringing in the house, you're not going to eat junk food, or your kids won't. So it comes to that. But the bottom line is, you need a well-rounded approach right now. You must be moving, you must be eating well. And when it comes to boosting your immunity, I think the number one thing is everyone must be doing is focusing on great sleep. So the sleep is going to help recovery. And when you get recovered and you wake up feeling somewhat rested and energized, that's going to allow you to go out there and move. Because remember, movement is boosting immunity. Exercising right now is going to be a great way to boost your immunity. When it comes to changing your biochemistry, movement, along with solid nutrition that Brooke just talked about, is going to boost your biochemicals, the chemicals in your brain that are going to infiltrate your body with the all of the support that is needed to help you fight off any dis-ease. So just a friendly reminder today, as we talked a lot about tips on building your immune system specifically, but it is a well-rounded approach between eating right, between moving and training right now, sleeping, and making sure your mind is right, right? So Brooke, thank you again. Hey, if anyone wants to find out more information from you, or they need to follow you, first off, guys, you got to follow Brooke. What's the best way they can follow you and see all the great things that you're putting out into the universe as well?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Dr. Brooke Scheller, Dr. Brooke Scheller. You can also find me on my website, brookescheller.com. And, follow me on there for different tips about nutrition. Again, you'll see my nerdy vegetable rants. We just did a whole series on digestive health and improving digestion. So a lot of fun stuff coming out of there, especially during this time. Really excited to be on the show today. So thanks for having me.
You're awesome, Brooke. Thank you. Guys, make sure you follow her, Dr. Brooke Scheller on Instagram. She's putting out a lot of great content. Reach out to her, DM her if you have any questions. She has certainly earned her way onto the Impact Show today because of the great things that she's doing. I hope you got great value out of today's show. And if so, make sure you go out and you take a picture right now of this episode, and make sure you tag me and tag Brooke at Dr. Brooke Scheller, or just at Dr. Brooke Scheller, at Dr. Brooke Scheller. And the bottom line is this: today, when you eat, just make sure that I'm in your head saying, "Is that good? Is it good? Is it good?" And just like Brooke was talking about today, you can have some things that are, let's call it fun foods. You can have some foods that might be a little sweet, but the bottom line is, the more you can satiate stress and get rid of stress out of your body, then you're not going to have this reaction that is going to make you just tank. And perhaps if you've tanked, this is what I always say: get back on the horse, get up, dust it off, go out there and move your body. Don't go into a complete abyss of like 2 to 3 days of debauchery of bad foods. We're all going to have these episodes where, you're going to get off course for a little bit. And right now, as a simple, friendly reminder, I'm just reminding you that make sure that every single day that you get out there and you train, that you eat right and you keep your mind right. So thanks for joining us today. Brooke, thank you again. I can't wait to have you on another episode, and great job today.
Thanks.
There you go, my friends. Have an incredible day. Get out there. Make sure you eat today really, really well. Take a picture of your food. Snap it. I want to see the rainbow, as Brooke called it. Take a picture of your foods. And the bottom line is, every single day we're going to continue to fight and win this battle, because sooner or later, when we get back to, quote, normal, let me tell you what, we are going to be strengthened up. Our immune system will be stronger than ever before. And just keep saying, we got this, baby. We got this. Have an incredible day. I love you guys, and we'll talk real soon. Until next time, remember, train hard, eat right, live inspired, and create impact.